Hello, folks. Today we have with us Nestor Oller, who's one of the leading foundations in Spain that is doing impact investing. His has also a family offices that he runs, and has been, for the past 20 years, affected the lives of millions of people. And through impact investing, he has almost tripled the endowment or quadrupled, I say, of the endowment that he had for his foundation. So it's a pleasure to talk to you today, Nestor.
Thank you, Asad. Very nice. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Great. So maybe, Nestor, if you can kindly introduce yourself in terms of your childhood and what got you interested in poverty. You certainly were part of a affluent family, a successful pharmaceutical business in Spain. What got you interested in poverty and issues in third world developing countries?
Yeah. Well, I was born in Barcelona, and as you said, I grew up in an affluent family. My dad being a businessman and having this pharmaceutical company. And but it's true that I've been always quite concerned for the social issues, and it would be difficult for me to really think what really sparked that thing on me. My dad being quite a religious man and giving maybe some donations to the church, local churches, the social programs by the local church. Maybe it's something that could have inspired me. What definitely had an impact on me was, the famine in Ethiopia in the 80s, and see those images on TV that really were hard to see. And it's true that being in an affluent family and then selling the business and having the proceeds of the business that you may use for other investments, there was then the chance to create a philanthropy, a foundation, and that's why we did what we did.
So how did you convince your family, and how was a challenge for you in terms of thinking about the foundation and your introduction? I asked this question so as other, possible affluent folks want to establish their own foundation or
Mm,
engage in it. Maybe you can
mm,
talk about how
mm,
you got this idea within your family and what challenges you faced and how did you cross
mm.
them?
Hmm. Well, actually, sometimes it's true that when you see someone in the same situation, as it was my case, sometimes they have to deal with brothers and sisters with different opinions, different views of the world, whether to set up a foundation, and if so, what kind of foundation. In my case, what it was much easier since I'm the only child. I
Yeah.
didn't have siblings to discuss it with, and it was just a kind of a father and child discussion. In this case, my father was also of the opinion of giving back to society. And so the idea of setting up a foundation was quite easy. The difficulty became when we wanted to create a foundation, but we didn't know exactly what to do. We had this clear idea of philanthropy, of giving back to society, but we didn't know at all what to do. So that was the main challenge, not creating the foundation, but actually
Which area do you
which
want
area
to
the
focus?
foundation was going to work in, right? Yes.
So
Um,
how did you come up with the idea of doing impact investing and doing it also internationally, unlike your father who was doing mostly domestically in
yes,
Spain?
yes. Yes, there were some things that were very clear to us, to me. One thing is going internationally because, in terms of absolute poverty in developing countries, the poverty was higher than, let's say, in poor areas in Spain. And I also had a clear idea of the role of the private enterprise, the business, as a wealth creator, as powerhouse of the economy. So I wanted the private enterprise being part of the model of our foundation. I didn't know how, but this is something that I wanted to explore. And at that time is when the figure of Yunus became very popular with his microcredit schemes, and actually caught my attention, and I thought that it would be a good way to start. The beauty of creating wealth out of such a small investment and relying on how people at this little very small scale can be entrepreneurs was something that really fascinated me. And of course, later on, we've seen the trouble with microfinance, everything what happened. Actually, your important role in solving these issues. But that actually gave us a good sense of where to start from.
Great. So, in your experience, what would you say that you were most proud of? What gave you the most pleasure, comfort, sense of pride in you've done a, you know, your palette is quite large, and I know
Yeah.
that Netri Foundation focuses on the poorest countries and wants to deal with the poorest people. Maybe you
Mm.
can reflect on what you're looking
Yeah.
back, what makes
Actually,
you
mm,
stands out in your mind.
sure. No, for me, something I'm really proud is just the fact of creating the foundation and devoting it to this area of impact investment. Um, I think it's the right fit for what our initial idea was. So after 20 years down the road, I think that choosing this path has proved to be the right one. Um, and well, I would say that then, I mean, you don't have to be careful on your investments, but on the other hand, you have to create impact. So having this right balance between risk and being impactful and being comfortable with the balance, I think it's not that easy, and I think we've pretty comfortable to where we are now, and in the end, after 20 years, as you mentioned in the introduction, being able to quadruple the initial endowment in terms of investments, it's something I'm really proud of. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you should be. I think I'm sort of not familiar with lots of Spanish foundations that are doing that. I know there are a few, but you are have
Mm,
been an example
mm,
for them in your journey, as you are proud that you took the decision, took a small step and created something that for 20 years has been impact lives of
mm,
millions of people
mm,
just by that small beginning, right? You started.
mm, mm.
Um, Along the way, what were some things that you think you should have avoided? Maybe looking, as they say, hindsight is 2020. What
Yeah.
would you say to other people that are thinking about doing a foundation? What should be they careful about? What
Well,
can they learn from you,
actually,
Nestor?
play safe. I would say play safe, especially
Yeah,
at the beginning.
yeah,
We are very proud at how safe we played, and as you very well known, we joined forces with Deutsche Bank, social asset managers, and you were really an expert in the field. So it was quite a smooth way to start into field that was not known at all for us, and relying on experts, and I would say it's one of the best advices that I can give to someone. Be
yeah,
surrounded by talented expert people in the areas, and because then it facilitates everything else. From then on, we've become more and more independent in the decision making process, more active in choosing the investments. But I think that having this this process was key to the success of the foundation. I guess that if from scratch we would have decided to take the decisions that we take in the way that we take them now, 20 years later, it would have been, we would have failed. So having this smooth process, this smooth transition, was key for us to be where we are now,
Yeah.
definitely.
I think that's very good advice.
Mm,
Instead of just jumping in, it's
mm,
better to jump in with some
mm,
initial
mm,
investments,
mm,
getting a
mm,
flavor for it, and
mm,
then, like you
mm,
said,
mm, mm.
you're yourself. It's not rocket science, right? You learn
No,
very
yeah.
quickly, and
Mm.
so building up.
Even before we started, I
Yes,
remember I spent almost a year just you know doing some research, seeing what works, what doesn't work, and with no hurry at all, because
right.
whenever you're in a hurry, then things can get wrong. So spending time, be patient and yeah, being surrounded by experts, I would say.
Right. So yeah, so I think that's also very good, advice, that not to rush it and then
Mm,
fail at it, but to take the time,
mm,
do it gradually, do it with some experienced people that are
mm,
already learned from that, and
mm,
then you can be your own, sort of
mm,
judge and making
mm,
more decisions as you
mm,
have in
mm,
that way.
mm.
The idea of impact investing versus philanthropy, because you do a little bit of philanthropy versus impact investing. How do you see that balance? And you see your philanthropic arm more effective, or your impact investing? How do you use those combinations?
Well, actually, let me just briefly explain our model.
Yeah, sure.
What we have is that our policy is to invest 100% of our endowment in social investments and investment through loans. We tried equity, but we quickly realized that it was not feasible, to sustain the model just participating in equity in the companies, because then we didn't have the turnover. We
Then
couldn't
have the
make it
exits, right?
within there are no exits, and so we do it through loans, and out of these loans, 2 3 year loan, and with the proceeds of this loan, the interest that we get, we give grants. So we have the endowment invested in social companies, and then the proceeds, we reinvest the principal, and the interest we do grants. So the idea, in order to keep the model, the system moving, is to have as little defaults as possible, which is something that we've managed very well. So when you mention the balance between philanthropy and impact investments, in my opinion, I would say that I consider everything philanthropy. I would say that impact investment, in my opinion, is the modern way of philanthropy. I think that I don't see why philanthropy has to do only with donations and not with investments, because in the end, the impact you can create, the social impact that you can create through investments, could be even much higher than through donations, no?
Yeah.
And with the benefit that in the end you can rotate, and it's a rolling thing, whereas a donation is just a one-off thing, and that's it. uh, Actually, this issue, one of the challenges that we had also was with the protectorate of the government, local government in Catalonia, which is the body to oversee the well functioning of the foundations, and they couldn't understand why we were investing. I mean, they said, no, no, no,
Yeah.
come on, you are a foundation, you should donate, but not
Yes.
invest. I
Yes.
said, no,
Yeah.
no, come on. We are investing, but in very social issues. We're creating social impact. And in the end, the impact could be higher even through the investments than through donations. Well, in the end, it took them quite a while, but finally they understood the social effect of this, so that everything was fine, right? But it's true that conventionally speaking, it seems that that philanthropy should be grant related and not investing related, right? Which in our view, in our foundation, we consider the whole thing a philanthropy
Yeah.
organization. Yeah.
Your approach is really socially motivated with the element of sustainability so that you
Yes.
can continue to have recurring impact on the target audience that you're trying to help.
Yes.
I think that is also very important in terms of not being too concerned, balancing the risks and the social nature to have
Mm.
impact. You really, at some level, you have to take some risks to do that. But your
Mhm.
experience, I'm sure, Nestor, that you have very fairly limited losses versus, what you have done over a large period of time. That tends to be the result in general.
Hmm. Yeah, we actually we've had limited losses, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we've been really conservative in our approach. As I said before, finding this right balance on,
Yes, yes,
because the more conservative, well, maybe the lesser the impact, right?
yeah,
So, and the more the riskier, you risk the whole model.
yeah, yeah,
So finding this balance but in the end, I think we've got this nice spot where, for instance, we are very flexible in investing in local currencies, for
yes,
instance. We're
yes,
not just ruling out an investment for the fact of being in local currency, thinking
right,
that the risk might be higher. Uh, we've read these studies where it shows that in the end, if you have a very well diversified portfolio of different local currencies,
yes,
in the end, your risk doesn't increase.
yes.
And we can prove it actually with our investments in our portfolio. So this is something that we do, which might be considered uh, increasing your risk. Other thing we try to do is to adapt a little bit to the requirements of the investee.
Yeah,
We don't mind maybe investing in longer terms that the average, or adapting to certain conditions, maybe adapting to or using certain guarantees that for the investee is not such a big deal, but for you it's just okay. And I mean, you can ease the life of your investees. It's something that we do without necessarily increasing the risk. So we're happy with the balance that we've achieved in this regard.
very interesting. So what you're saying is that you're not only doing direct loans, but you're also guaranteeing it, which allows you to probably do a little bit more as the net result of that guarantee. The losses are fairly limited, so you can expand on your capital that you have through guarantees. Is that right? Did I get
Well, this
understand?
is the ideal world. In the ideal world, which used to happen before more than us. Well, you know that in microfinance, you give your loan and it's used as a guarantee, and maybe that guarantee is in euros or in US dollars, and then the local bank using it as a guarantee can give them double that amount.
Yes.
So the leverage that you achieve is bigger, right? So yeah, we love being some sort of catalysts and trying to increase the outcome, the impact, more than directly from the funds that we've provided. You know, if we manage to get all these issues where they can, the investee can get higher the amount, or we try to play that role as well. Yes.
In terms of, starting the foundation, you're busy with your family office work as well.
Mm.
What did you think about you sort of, engaging with your staff, and how did you build up Josephine, who's played an important
Mm.
role for you?
Mm.
How was that experience in terms of, sort of
Yeah.
starting out and partnering with, then beefing up your own capabilities and your own staff. Maybe you can
Yeah,
reflect on that. How did that
yeah.
transition happen?
Yeah, it's true that when I started on my own,
Yeah.
but I mean, if you realize that you have to be surrounded but people better than you, right? I'm very lucky to have Josephine with me,
Yeah.
and actually our model. I'm very fan of keeping things simple.
Yeah.
And I remember this. Just tell you a short story. We went to Switzerland to see one of those deal providers of microfinance, and I met the founder, and he said, "Well, I founded the company 10 years ago." And I said, "Oh, like me." He said, "No, it was just me." I said, "Oh, like me, it was just me." And I said, "How many of you are now?" He said, 150. And he said, "And you?" And I said, one and a half, you know." But I like to keep things simple, and if you can do things having the simplicity, for me is finding gold, right? So we are a very, very small team. We outsource almost anything. All the deals have been filtered previously, and then they are filtered by Josephine, the CEO of the foundation. So my decision in this regard is almost nothing, right? So no, having a trustworthy person, a very talented one. I would say that for the profile for an investment, a foundation dealing with social investments, having someone as a CEO who's got a financial background,
Hmm.
but who is very socially motivated is
Yeah.
the right profile uh, that anyone who wanted to set up a foundation like this should look after, right? And yeah, it's true that now I devote my time more to the family office. Um, uh, but in the end, one of the talking about goals and my ideas long term is basically to have all the family office investments, not to do more investments than the ones that we have now, just to develop certain things that are left to do, and once we have the whole thing in place and developed, basically using the proceeds from the family office to the family foundation, so I expect the family foundation to increase a lot in the coming years.
Great. I
and
wish you
and
well on that.
yeah, and actually keeping the same model, though. Keeping the same
Yeah.
model.
Yeah. The
Uh,
model works. You want to
yeah,
keep it and
yeah,
just grow that.
yeah. Hopefully, just by adding a zero in the amount of investments.
Right. Great. So,
Yeah,
when you look at foundations in Spain, right? I mean, there's several foundations, there's large foundations and small foundations. How do you find, of course, small foundations, smaller resources. How do you, sort of punch above your weight? How do you, as a small foundation, try to uh, see your role in terms of convincing uh, a larger foundation, partnering with them or other. I know you have some relationships with other high net
yeah,
worth individuals that have
yeah,
foundations and you
yeah,
share. Maybe you can talk about how important is it to link into the larger,
yeah,
environment of philanthropy.
yeah. Well, actually, that maybe in Barcelona, in Catalonia, we don't like to talk too much about money or philanthropy, what we do with money, but so I've been actually for many years dealing with this contradiction of being very prudent on talking about what we do, and actually the need for others in the same place as I am, of knowing our model, what we do, and being a bit of an example for them, for those who want to set up a foundation, because in the end, many people say, "Oh, Nestor, you know that you were a pioneer in Spain in impact investments."
Yeah.
And I always say, look, if so much so that I didn't even know what the term impact investment was, you know?
That,
Yeah. So it's true that philanthropy wise, the whole sector in Spain is not as developed as, let's say, UK
mm,
or well, let alone the States. Eh?
yes.
And 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 you see more and more people embracing the idea of impact investments. Maybe because they've heard, this is a trendy word, trendy, and they tend to deep down a little bit on the field. But for instance, just last week, we had this interview with the CEO of La Caixa, which is the biggest foundation in Spain.
And the bank, right?
The
Is that
bank,
also
yeah,
bank? Yes.
the
Yes.
bank has the foundation.
Yes. Yes.
They do great things, and actually, I asked them to why, because they I think they don't do many things in impact investments. Asking them to develop a role as a kind of a development bank.
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
The risking blended structure for other foundations by playing their role in and actually it was something new for them and not only in Spain but I would say in Europe.
Yeah.
My hopes would be that bigger foundations and bigger players were more active in this kind of thing, playing their catalytic role in these programs that are based in blended finance with different tranches and structures and playing a more active role in the very risky as a guarantors for the rest of the players in the sector to play more comfortably and being able to develop projects that otherwise they would get stuck because the lack of finance, right? So I would love that in Spain foundations would big foundations
Mm,
or state
yeah.
funds, would play a more catalytic role in this regard. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I guess as a pioneer, a Nestor, I know that you said culturally in Spain, you don't like, unlike the Americans, where they're very good at,
Yeah.
talking about themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
In Spain, it's a little bit more humble. But I
Mm.
think as a pioneer and as a deeply socially concerned person, do you see some responsibility or some,
Yeah.
sort of, you know, effort to
Yeah.
also broaden the pie? You can certainly
Yeah.
do so much, but there's so
Yeah.
much you can do. But if you can
Yeah.
broaden the pie and get other people's motivated in this sector, uh, would you think that is something that a small foundation uh, can have a role as a pioneer?
Well,
Or yeah.
definitely, I have to say that I'm becoming an evangelist, and
Right, right. So you're
and
already
and
doing that role. Yeah. And,
and this year we've celebrated our 20th anniversary,
yeah.
and actually we sent this email to our friends
Yes.
and actually it was a surprise for many of them because they didn't know what we were doing,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah. So I
you think
agree
that you
that
know, but you don't know till you see the details of it.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
So
I
that's
think,
why sometimes I've been invited to conferences
yeah.
and which is something that I don't love, but
Yeah.
tend to accept my responsibility as evangelist
Yeah. Okay. Good. No, I
and
appreciate that. I know it's
talking
not your
about the
cup of tea,
sector
but you
and so
still do it.
yeah. Yeah,
Great.
yeah. Because I think that there is a need, culturally speaking. As I said, the foundation world in Spain is not as developed as in other countries, and there is a lot of work to do in this regard, And if you can, some sort of get rid of the idea of, well, just writing a check is enough,
Yeah.
but being, personally into what your foundation does, and being really involved. I think it could be a good because in the end, in the Catalonia area, there are great entrepreneurs
Yeah.
that if they devote themselves and get involved in the philanthropy pursuits as they did with their companies,
Yes.
their
Yes.
businesses, that can be fantastic. That can
Yeah.
be
It's a,
fantastic.
what you're doing really, as you said, it's a business approach to philanthropy, right?
Definitely,
Right. Because it's a
definitely,
more difficult thing to do, right? It's easy to just
definitely.
write a check and forget about it.
Yes,
But to monitor it, to get the money back, to redeploy it, to recurring, I'm saying it's a more difficult challenge to do. And most
yes.
people don't have the time to do that. So maybe, there is a way, like you said, when you started, you partnered with others who were more knowledgeable. So I think there may be an opportunity uh, for people to partner with Netri and to
Mm-hmm.
learn from him
Mm-hmm.
and then go their own
Mm.
way, and to start
Exactly,
there. There has to be a starting point, right?
exactly,
You have to
exactly.
take a step forward, and that step, based on your advice, is to
Mm.
partner.
Yes, or at least, there has always been this vision of NGOs as something that in economic or business terms, you shouldn't be as demanding towards them as you are towards a business in terms of professionality or of professionalism of the management. Now, I think this has changed completely, and actually installing also in donors or investors their attitude of being very demanding in terms of what to expect from the management
Mm.
of an NGO, and from the having this attitude, even if it's just for grants, but giving it to the right
That's
organization,
also, yeah,
efficient,
yeah,
professional, talented, and with the right procedures, governance in place. So I
yeah,
think that only as a donor, having this framework as a criteria to where to donate, I think it's important.
yeah.
So we love to talk about it as well, because in the end, it's something that it goes beyond your donation. It improves the whole system.
Right. No, I think that's really a very important point. I think the idea for people who see the value of business, that have
Mm,
created business, and
mm,
are applying those standards of
mm,
demanding good governance, transparency, is, I think, the right way to do. It shouldn't just,
mm,
you shouldn't be
mm,
soft when you're
mm.
doing
Exactly.
philanthropy, that you should hold them accountable, especially with the impact investing is such.
Exactly.
I
Sorry,
think, yeah,
no,
please.
which is something that we apply to our grantees, because
Yes,
we have the investments, but to our grantees, this is exactly what we try to. I mean, one of our criteria for the grants is precisely this one, no? Having a proper management in place, the right governance, and we always look for a creative idea to solve a certain issue, a social issue, and how scalable this idea can be in the future. So if they have this whole thing in place, they are very attractive for us. Yeah.
great. Uh, Maybe if you can reflect a little bit on the future. I think we are going through a very difficult time globally, as you know, and mostly due to some individuals here in America, if I may say so. It's a crazy time. How do you
Mm.
see the future in terms of seeing all these migrants coming into Europe, which cannot sustain? How do you see the importance of trying to improve their own environment? Um, you know, what does the future look like to you, and what are you working towards through, so what are you sort of hoping um, Netri can achieve in a small way, and how do you see the future of Netri?
Yeah. Well, as you said, the world doesn't look very good,
Yeah.
and I would love to be optimistic, but well, I don't know. It's true that, for instance, I'm gonna tell you an example of a project that we are in Ghana. There is this organization. What they do, this guy who crossed the desert in Africa, went to Europe. It took him 4 years to get to Spain, and actually he managed to meet Santander Botín, the president, tell her the story. She loved it. It was really so. He does conferences. He does, and what we do is his brother is in Ghana, and they've developed a network of developers, and they code for the banks here in Spain.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yes.
said,
Yeah.
well, this is the perfect example of the world needs.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
People
Yeah.
in Europe outsourcing, they used to outsource in India.
Yeah.
Now it's time to outsource everything maybe to
Yeah.
Africa, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I can see the world improving by
Yeah.
scaling up these cases like this.
Yeah.
Now the world is in such a so many
Yeah. Yeah.
issues.
This will pass,
Yeah,
Nestor, as they say, this period of difficulty will pass. And I think, yeah, so I think the, the focus really should be to not worry too much, but to continue to do what you can within
I
your
guess
own limits to
the key
jump
thing
in
is
and start to.
the key thing is education.
Yeah.
Education in
Yeah.
Western countries and in developing countries. Education, education, education. And then I guess populisms will go away. Normality will come back, and moderate governments with people educated. I think the future should go through this situation like this, and
Right.
hopefully more positive than the current one.
Yes, right, right. So, I think my I know that you do have some relationships with foundation and development banks, and if you were to sort of have you made you Superman and you could improve the environment around other foundations and the challenges they are seeing, how would you, from your uh, what do you think the other foundations and we can do to improve the overall environment? Should they collaborate more? Should they, focus on impact? How do you, in your view?
Yeah, yeah. In my view, as I said, I've always believed in business, in the private company, in the entrepreneurial spirit. Um, Big foundations and even development banks who have been focused maybe on these schemes, financial schemes, where they take the most risky part and the risk the whole investment. I think this is fine, but I would really love to see this big money coming into, let's say, a huge network of venture builders
Hmm.
across the world, across Africa, across the
Hmm.
most needed countries, and
Hmm.
devoting financial resources, technical expertise, to starting a seed capital and then accompanying these thousands and thousands of projects that are in the world, and accompanying them to reach Series A to Series B, to be more financially,
Hmm.
closing the gap between, this. If you ask me for what my dream is in terms
Yes,
of
yes,
in this world, impact related is this, having this big organizations more devoted to helping entrepreneurial people around the world.
right. So I think what I heard you say is that you can accomplish more maybe through investments and seed investment by nurturing the entrepreneurial human spirit than sort of trying to solve problems through through war, through bombing people.
Uh,
The time amount of money we are spending, it's incredible. So my last question to you, a lot of young people are watching this. You
Mhm.
are could be an inspiration for them, especially young people that are coming from wealthy families. What would your advice be for a young person that is, of wealth, wanting to do something? How would you sort of say, what would you give him advice if he came to you and say, "Hey, Nestor, what do I do? How can I do this?"
Well, I would say that devote their time, their life into something like impact investment is something which it will be very rewarding. And I would say that for that to be that way, actually, I would advise the same advice as I would give to someone who wants to invest in any kind of investment, being long term, being patient,
Mm,
um, uh, diversify,
mhm,
diversify your
mm.
portfolio, and try to be involved as much as you can, and getting to know the persons which are at the other side, seeing the projects, seeing what's behind the investment, because that's the fuel that you sometimes will need long term in order to keep
Yeah,
investing and keep um, doing what you do in this field. Yes.
right. Nestor, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciated your thinking around that start small, be conservative, partner, and just take the first step and start doing it. And I wish Netri Foundation and the work you have accomplished and the example you have set, and thank you and God bless you, Nestor.